Angeles. What's moves are underway to get them out of there?
As we mentioned, we are adding extra services onto our Los Angeles and London operations. We have a large international fleet of 26 747s and 14 A330s. We have a large domestic fleet. Qantas is in a unique position to be able to rejig its operation to free up capacity to replace the A380s that we're operating internationally. We will, in the next 24 hours, put on additional services to LA and to London in order for us to recover those passengers, and it's our intention to take those passengers back within the next 24 hours.
Alan, Singapore Airlines, I believe, has a slightly different model at 970B of the Trent 900, and Qantas is operating with a 972B, I believe.
Yeah.
So a slightly different engine. Is that the reason? Do you believe, or does Rolls-Royce believe, the problem is limited to the Trent 900s operating with Qantas aircraft and not any of the Singapore or the other airline?
The only differences between the engines are actually the power rating of the engines, which is actually not a physical difference in the engines. It's what the engine manufacturer has sold to the airlines to allow them to actually operate to higher levels of power. So ours is a slightly higher level of power than Singapore and Lufthansa. One of the things we are looking at is whether those operational considerations with having a higher level of power has actually contributed to this. But I have to say, again, the aircraft is certified and the engine is certified to operate to those higher levels of power. So this is a problem with the engine not meeting its design criteria if that's the case, and that's an area that we are looking at.
And just quickly with the replacement, you said we've got a replacement Trent 900 here in Sydney for the two required in Los Angeles. Where will they be coming from?
We are trying to source. We have one spare engine for one of the aircraft, and we are working with Rolls-Royce to obtain the additional spare engine. And it will probably be coming from the production lines from Rolls-Royce.
And finally, from me anyway, Qantas passengers have been quite happy with the service coming from the airport. The passengers on both these flights out of Singapore were happy. I believe the captain of the QF32 gave his mobile phone number out to passengers. So in case of any problems, Qantas has been quite upfront in front of the media every day, but Rolls-Royce, on the other hand, has been quite silent. Do you find it a little disappointing that for what appears to be an engine malfunction, Qantas is taking all the flak, if you will, and Rolls-Royce is very much staying in the background and not putting anyone up to comment?
Well, we know our brand is very important to us, and it is a consumer brand. It gets a lot of attention. So our view on how we communicate this issue is to be open and transparent, and to front up and talk about them and make sure all the information that we have is available. We think that's the best way of us working through this issue. So we're not going to change the way we're approaching it. I'll leave other organisations to judge what's appropriate for them. But can I reiterate what you said, which I think is absolutely spot on. In terms of the way our people have actually handled this, I think it's a great credit to the people of Qantas in terms of how the passengers coming off the QF32 and the QF6 have actually reacted. The amount of passengers that I've seen that have said that they will absolutely fly Qantas again, and in some cases passengers saying they will only fly Qantas again, because they regard the way we've handled this, the way the pilots and the cabin crew handle the situation, the way our ground staff handle the situation, as an example of an airline operating at its best, and an airline that takes safety absolutely seriously. And I think a lot of our customers see with Qantas grounding the aircraft, despite the commercial and financial implications for us, that shows our commitment to safety. And I think it's again a credit to the organisation that we're putting safety before anything else.
And can you confirm there are 500 stranded passengers in Los Angeles waiting to get back to Sydney?
Yes, there is 500 passengers in Los Angeles, and as I said, within the next 24 hours, those passengers will be brought back to Australia.
And will all passengers affected by this disruption be compensated, perhaps to varying degrees? Will they all be compensated?
We are working through what we're going to do in terms of compensation for passengers. There's different levels that are associated with people that were on QF32 and QF6. but we will be talking to the passengers that have been disrupted. We are paying for the hotel accommodation, the expenses of these passengers involved in it. Qantas is taking its premium service on this very seriously. We have apologised, and I will continue and reinstate our apologies to the disruptions we're causing passengers as a result of this, and we will look after passengers in light of our premium status as a premium airline.
And how concerned are you about damage to the airline, further damage?
Of course, it's very important that we continue to communicate out there, but as I said, I think Qantas's actions on this speak loudly about our commitment to safety, and I think that to me is the most important thing with our brand. It's to absolutely emphasise that we have a 100% commitment to safety, and that these issues look like they're related to either the material or the design of the engines operating in certain conditions on new engines that were outside the control of Qantas. And as a consequence is how we've handled it from an operational point of view, which I think our pilots handle it superbly, and how we're handling it from a safety point of view, and grounding the fleet shows our commitment to that. And I think it will reassure people that if they want to fly on one of, if not the safest airline in the world, they should be flying on Qantas.
2 more questions, guys.
Given the 500 passengers you're covering bed and breakfast, which is great, did you give them the option of Qantas paying the tickets back on for Australia, United or Delta?
A lot of the airlines we've looked at getting tickets on other airlines, and for example today of LA everybody's full. And it's a bit more than bed and breakfast. We're putting people up in a lot of cases in 5-star hotels, so it's not just bed and breakfast. It's again in line with the status of a premium airline.
So no other flights available?
That's our issue. I mean, we are hiring aircraft in from British Airways, and we are talking to our other partners about getting additional aircraft. But I have to say, there's not going to be hundreds or thousands of passengers not being able to travel, because we have an extensive fleet, and we're able to put that fleet in, and the disruptions we're talking about are going to be minimum going forward. There will be timing changes, and we are recovering the passengers that have been disrupted for the last few days with these extra services, but we're making sure we utilise our size and strength to get passengers back.
Will you expect compensation from Rolls-Royce?
As I said earlier, we are working with Airbus and Rolls-Royce to fix this issue. That's our top priority, and compensation talks will take place after the aircraft are back in the air, and we're not going to engage in that today.
With you've obviously been going over the planes, not just the engines, with respect to the fine-tooth comb. Have you found any other irregularities about the operating systems, the computerised systems, especially on the plane in Singapore?
No, on the aircraft that we've been looked at, our focus has been on the engines, and we absolutely believe that's where, this is an engine failure. It wasn't on the systems on the aircraft. In the aircraft in Singapore, the ATSB is still holding the aircraft subject to their investigations, so we still haven't had the aircraft released back to us for us to start the repair work on that aircraft. When that happens, we'll obviously be looking at everything on the aircraft before it goes back into the air.
So after that engine failure on the plane in Singapore, everything did go?
No, as we said before, the number one engine on the aircraft could not be shut off when the aircraft landed. That was a result of material coming from the number 2 engine, which is the engine that shut down, into the wing of the aircraft, which did cause some wiring to disconnect, and that didn't allow us to actually switch off the number 1 engine. So that is the issue, and it's purely related to the failure of the number 2 engine.
Okay, guys.
Thank you very much.